I'm Gleaves Whitney. This is a continuation of my video essay, The Joy of the Liberal Arts in a Pandemic and Beyond. Chapter 5, Returning to the Splendor of the Trivium. Administrators and educators tout that a good liberal arts education develops their students' critical thinking skills. This statement is true as far as it goes, but it is woefully incomplete. Critical thinking was embedded in the classical trivium that developed across civilizations and over millennia. The trivium, which is Latin for the three paths, steeps students in grammar, dialectic, and rhetoric, concepts that we think we know from everyday use, but that are much richer in their original meaning. The trivium comprises much more than critical thinking. It provides a comprehensive method to deal with a society's most important issues. Now, in the great tradition of the liberal arts, grammar is much more than knowing the rules of composition. That's important. But more broadly understood, it refers to learning how the worldview of our civilization pulls the big questions together, the understanding of God, the view of human beings, their ideal social relations, their relation to nature, and the values they hold as non-negotiable, and the ends to which they should direct their lives. All are part of grammar, the grammar of our worldview. Grammar subsumes the major source documents of the culture, the works of poets, prophets, philosophers, and scientists. All these works together define the civilization's authoritative canon, its worldview, and the task of education traditionally has been to transmit that worldview to its young through reading and discussion. Grammar is the liberal learner's anchor. In the great tradition of the liberal arts, dialectic is much more than knowing the rules of rational thinking, although that's very important. But more broadly understood, it refers to learning how to critically engage a civilization's worldview. In a moderated setting, students learn critical methods that arise from good questions and healthy skepticism. These methods range from Socrates' dialectical conversations to St. Thomas Aquinas' scholastic method to Sir Karl Popper's criterion of falsifiability. The dialectical tradition is comfortable with aporia, the Greek word for inconclusive statements that invite more questions. It seeks to ferret out weaknesses in the reigning paradigm, not as idle negativity, but as a rigorous method, the better to grasp what we should do next. Many centuries ago, Europe's natural philosophers pushed and pushed on weaknesses in the Aristotelian Ptolemaic geocentric view of the universe until it collapsed and was replaced by the heliocentric conception of our solar system. We call that moment in history the Copernican Revolution. The scientific revolution and the Enlightenment that followed instantiated dialectical methods in modern Western culture. These methods give students ways of questioning received wisdom. Again, not to tear down, but to build stronger and to go farther. Think again of our maritime metaphor. Dialectic is the liberal learner's sail. In the great tradition of the liberal arts, rhetoric is much more than learning Aristotle's three means of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. More broadly understood, it refers to discerning the best ways to advance the conversation about our civilization's worldview, its grammar, and our critical engagement with that worldview, dialectic. But with this twist, rhetoric requires the speaker to have the courage and the skill to offer his or her considered viewpoint in the marketplace. In a representative democracy, it applies, by the way, not only to writing and speaking, but also to other forms of symbolic communication: music, painting, sculpture, architecture. In whatever form the rhetor speaks, it is the liberal learner's rudder helping steer the ship of state to a better destination. There's no gainsaying that rhetoric has always been the most problematic part of the trivium. Plato cautioned that rhetoric's power, its capacity to move people to just and unjust actions alike, must be used to assist in the search for truth, or else it can be dangerous. Many of the Sophists of his day were indeed dangerous. The worst among them taught students how to win arguments by making the weaker argument the stronger. They eschewed dispassionate reason for violent displays of emotion. One can imagine the chest thumping and the table pounding in the Sophists' performance, or the bullying they resorted to when they had the inferior argument, which they often did. It was Sophists who trained the witnesses in Socrates' trial. They succeeded in instigating the judicial murder of a great man. One of the best ways to defend against the sophistical viruses that plague us today is to boost our body politic's immune system with the trivium. Traditionally, the trivium was at the heart of the liberal arts, just as the liberal arts were at the heart of higher education. The trivium's lofty goal was then, and ever will be, to integrate knowledge of a civilization's worldview with constructive criticism of that worldview, all the while deploying rhetoric to move one's fellow citizens to seek, to the extent they are capable, what is truer, lovelier, and better. In the present crisis, as in any crisis, don't we need to recall the better angels of our nature through truth, goodness, and beauty? This concludes Chapter 5 of my video essay, The Joy of the Liberal Arts in a Pandemic and Beyond. I invite you to watch Chapter 6. Thanks for dropping in.